Latvia Weekly, your independent guide to the news in Latvia, with your hosts Otto and Joe Horgan.
Good afternoon, this is Otto, and let me welcome you to the Rīga City Council Extraordinary Election 2020 special by Latvia Weekly. Let us discuss this very important election that came after the Rīga City Council, which was elected in 2017, was let go after a series of alleged violations and a decision of the Ministry for Regional Development and Environmental Protection. For a while, we had an administration which was appointed to deal with the city council affairs, but now we have had an election and the result has been announced, so we can already discuss the first conclusions out of it. Let me begin with discussing the election in numbers. 707 candidates from 15 parties contested 60 seats that form the Riga City Council and makes the main decisions in our capital city. Almost 423,000 eligible voters were registered for this election. At the same time, only 171,000 voters, or 40.6%, actually did go out and vote. Previously, in 2017, one had 58% vote. So the vote activity of this election is the lowest since 1997. For comparison, if we look at the last national election in 2018, the result there was 54%, so quite higher than for the municipal one. At the same time, if we look at the European Union election, so the European Parliament election last year, then the result here was only 34, which was lower than that for this election. So we can see that there could be several explanations for this. One that we can speak of, and that is relevant for all elections, also for the national, and the one for the European Parliament that I just mentioned. There is a general decline of voting activity, which is a trend that has been going on for a while. At the same time, we have to remember that the national political system of Latvia also makes a difference in this, as Latvia is a unitary, not a federal country. So, a municipality, even if it is the capital city and the biggest city in the country, it does provide a great political trampoline and hosts many resources, especially if we remember that more than 80% of the income tax that many of our listeners pay go to the municipality that one is registered at. Still, the municipality does not directly determine the most important issues which are decided at the national level, and that is the role of Saeima. There were reports that some Saskaņa voters were surprised not to see Nils Ušakovs on the ballot, as the former mayor of Riga is currently serving as the member of the European Parliament. Some others instead may have decided not to vote because they knew that Mr. Ušakovs was not going to be there. Also, the last couple of months, Riga has been run by appointed interim administration, as I just mentioned. So, some unsure voters may have reconsidered the importance of elected council, as Riga did not sink without one for some time. Probably we also have to take into account the effect of the pandemic in context of senior citizens who have been the most active voters previously, and perhaps some of them may have chosen not to go vote in person in fear of contracting the virus. So several aspects, some of them quite new, that we have to take into account when trying to analyze the results and the activity. Let me mention also some of the incidents that happened during the election proceedings. Thank goodness none of them have been major, so the question of the validity of the elections as a whole has not been raised. At the same time, there are some minor issues which will have to be resolved, and some action may follow. For example, the Office for the Prevention and Fight Against Corruption did receive 10 notifications of alleged campaigning violations during the election day, because there is this period of time, as with the national election and also in this case, when campaigning is prohibited. But of course, there are always some isolated instances where some people are distributing leaflets or doing some other activities or paid advertising, which is not allowed when it is so close to the election time, especially on the election day. Also, the State Security Service reported that it received 25 notifications of alleged election violations. All of them are being investigated, and we will see whether some of them serve as ground for criminal proceedings. One of the more important incidents that happened was that approximately 600 votes may be declared invalid, as voters in 2 stations were given ballot envelopes without a stamp of registration, which is required by law before the envelopes are distributed to the voters. The head of the Central Election Committee stated that it may require a court ruling on whether a repeated vote in specific station is necessary. This may be the case if the difference between any 2 candidates for getting a seat is less than the amount of these invalid votes, meaning it could have made a material difference. It is no laughing matter, as in 2017, the whole vote for the Ķekava municipal election was repeated, as the committee found 6 more envelopes than the number of registered voters who actually cast their vote, which could have changed which of 2 candidates get a seat. So we'll see what the difference is, and whether this has to go to court, and some couple thousand voters in these stations will have to try to vote again. I have to also mention a criminal offense proceeding which was initiated for alleged prevention of voting, as one woman was not allowed to vote due to her signature being found in the registration sheet already. So here we'll see whether the signature was misplaced, or perhaps someone else who had the chance to take the documents of this woman went and voted there instead. Perhaps it was just a clerical mistake, but even if this is a one case, I'm happy to see that the procedure will be followed and investigation will be made to make sure that no violations have been committed. Another administrative offense case was opened for campaigning ban violations, as one person actually did distribute election ad leaflets in Ķēngarakas district in Riga. Also, another administrative offense case was opened for violating self-isolation requirements. There was one voter who was registered to vote at home due to the requirement to keep the 2-week self-isolation. And he actually surprised the representatives of the election committee that visited him at home to collect his vote, as it turned out that he had already went out and voted in presence in a voting station. So even though this vote will be counted and from the political process there will be no violations, the person risks to receive a fine up to 2,000 euros for violating the self-isolation requirements and putting other people at the voting station in risk. All the established parties, except the Greens and the Farmers Union and KPV-LV, have got in. The official results are as follows. Attīstībai par progresīvie, or Development for and Progressives, have received 44,690 votes, which mean that they will get 18 seats at the City Council. Saskaņa, the Social Democratic Party, Harmony, has received 28,811 votes, which means that they will get 12 seats at the Rīga City Council. Jaunā vienotība, or the New Unity, has received 25,986 votes, which means that they will get 10 seats at the Rīga City Council. The Nacionālā apvienība and Latvijas Reģionu apvienība, the National Alliance and the Latvian Regional Association, has received 16,435 votes, which means that they will get 7 seats at the table. Partija Gods kalpot Rīgai, or Honor to Serve Riga, has received 13,162 votes, which means that they will get 5 seats at the table. The Latvian-Russian Union, Latvijas-Krievijas Savienība, has received 11,112 votes, which means that they will get 4 seats at the table, while the Jaunā konservatīvā partija, New Conservative Party, has received 10,903 votes, which means that they will get 4 seats at the table. All the established parties, except Zaļo un Zemnieku Savienība, the Greens and the Farmers, and the KPV-LV, who owns the State Party, have got in. At the same time, the Greens and the Farmers have never had representation in the Rīga City Council for the last 2 decades, since they allegedly agreed with the Social Democrats to let one of the parties to focus on Riga, while the other one on Jelgava. So this does not hurt the Zemnieki and Zaļie where they live. The election may come as a big blow for KPV-LV though, as they have not come very close to the 5%, and it puts in question their future in the current form and tough work ahead for the party leader Altis Zakatistovs at the national level. So no wonder the former member of the party Aldis Gobzems has announced that he will establish a new party in November, while Mr. Artus Kaimiņš may make a similar move if he wishes to stay in politics after this electoral cycle. Out of all parties that make up the different separate and joint lists, the result will deliver the biggest breakthrough for the Progresīvie, who ran on the joint list with the already well-established Attīstībai par. Progresīvie are to receive 9 out of the 18 mandates gained by the joint list. This means that they will have avoided going down after not getting in the national or the European Parliament. The smallest parties with the less-known politicians, narrower issues and radical policies, and the least resources have not managed to get in. But let's hope that some of their policies that were rather sound will be taken into account by any possible coalition. There are not so many options for a coalition to come together. If we look at the results and the announcements of the parties before the election took place. Attīstībai par Progresīvie, so Development for Progressive, and the New Unity, having first and third best results, are to set the tune for the following political arrangement. Saskaņa has come in second, but does not seem to have even one potential partner for trying to form a coalition. The political marriage with Honor to Serve Riga is beyond repair, and the former Saskaņa ally is also seeking to survive by disassociating it from the previous cooperation. Saskaņa's stance on identity issues is something that, for example, National Alliance would find too much, while the Latvian-Russian Union would find too lukewarm for their tastes. Although many analysts would argue that Saskaņa and the Latvian-Russian Union have the most similar electorates, this has actually made them compete between themselves and would prevent them from proposing an alternative coalition this time as well. Many voters of the Young Conservative Party and Development for Progressives would discount such cooperation with Saskaņa on governance and transparency grounds alone. Whereas the story of Saskaņa may not end here, they will most likely have to stay in the opposition at what used to be their power base for the last decade. Time will tell whether they are able to use this time and coordinate the work of the municipal faction with their faction at the national parliament by becoming a professional opposition, something that the Social Democrats, what Saskaņa are labeling themselves as, did before the war at the national parliament. Mr. Mārtiņš Staķis, representing Development for Progressives, is likely to become the mayor. This is validated by Prime Minister Kariņš, stating that the new mayor should come from the party with the most votes. As that is the Development for Pro, Kariņš seems to present a party position in supporting the Development for Pro ambition. Coming third, yet being needed for Pro Development 4 to form the municipal coalition, the New Unity will expect certain trade-offs. So Vilnis Ķirsis, the long-standing candidate for Riga mayor from the new unity is most likely to become Mr. Staķis' deputy, the vice mayor, or the first vice mayor, as both a development for Pro and new unity may need at least another partner to form a coalition, and they may wish their mayoral candidate to share the days or the presidium with Mr. Staķis and Mr. Vilnius too. Considering the municipal coalition, Mr. Staķis has stated that he sees parties that have previously formed the opposition but are thinking about the state, as he put it, to form the coalition. As that would include the National Alliance and Latvian Regional Association, it would exclude Gods kalpot Rīgai, or Honor to Serve Riga. As the leader of the former list, Einārs Cilinskis, reiterated the red lines, the intention not to seek a coalition with either Saskaņa or Gods kalpot Rīgai. Although not stated by Cilinskis, a National Alliance would also not wish to seek a coalition with the Latvian-Russian Union due to contrasting positions on the role of Russian language in Latvia and in Riga in particular. National Alliance, together with Latvian Regional Association, did a very good strategic move and saved themselves by banding together and coming over the 5%. They may, for the long-term self-interest, be a reason to include the new Conservative Party in the coalition and point out to shared conservative values, which could be used to balance some views or the decisions on some issues with some more liberal views held by Development for Progressives and New Unity Party. Anti-corruption and good governance will be the theme song of this coalition. Harmonious relationship between the Riga municipality and the national government will also be a leitmotif of the city council and an argument that will be invoked frequently. If we look at transport priorities, roads and bike lanes, as well as regional transit integration, seem to be the priorities shared by most of the likely coalition partners. City environment and image form another block that will be important. Also, an importance will be given to kindergartens, healthcare and social services. Yet, despite cooperation in the government, there are potential issues that the coalition partners may and will certainly disagree on if that comes to a ballot. For example, the Attīstībai par and Pro, the Development for and Pro, and the National Alliance may disagree, for example, on the municipal stance on gay pride taking place in Riga. An issue of contention between Development for and Pro and the new Conservative Party may be the matter of gambling limitations, as one of the parties was in favor of a gambling ban, whereas the other has representatives of the gambling industry among their supporters. We will follow and continue reporting on this as parties announce their intentions and conclude agreements as to who does what and what comes next. It will be clear in the following days what the coalition is at the Rīga City Council, and at the first City Council meeting they will have, they will affirm this coalition and elect the mayor and also the vice mayor or vice mayors, depending on the agreement that they will have. So this was the Riga election special report by Otto for Latvia Weekly. Thank you for your attention.